So if you hear some meowing, it's because my cat is actually in my room. Say hello. His name is Moomin, and because the guests over at my house who are kind of really scared of cats, they've kind of made me the caretaker for this cat, but I still gotta make this video anyway, so if you hear some meowing, it's because my cat. This is the TWS 7 HyperBASS. It's a pair of true wireless earphones from a brand called Earpump. It is pretty promising when I first used it. The sound quality is pretty nice, the build quality is pretty decent, it's got dual drivers, features up the wazoo, and it's only about 80 to 90 Singapore dollars. But after using it for a while, I've realized a major fatal flaw with it, which means I literally cannot recommend this to a single person to buy. So let's talk about it. Now before I start this video, if you have any questions you want to ask away down in the comment section. I reply to everything. Or you can reach me on Discord and Instagram, linked in the description as well. So let's talk about the TWS 7 HyperBASS, and as always we start with the design. The design of these earphones and this whole system is pretty simple, it's pretty standard, and it's actually quite reminiscent of the Sony 1000X series of true wireless earphones. Those true wireless earphones from Sony have a case, have USB-C on the back, and they have a very similar case shape. But that's not a bad thing. I think the Sonys look good and these look pretty good as well. They're not vulgar in any way, they're not loud or shouty, but they're also not particularly special. It's a simple case, and there's nothing wrong with that. The earphones themselves are also pretty simple. They are a bit big, bulky, and kind of protruding because it has that dual driver design. But apart from that, it's overall pretty simple, and all around it looks pretty nice. Now the only drawbacks with this particular design that I can really think of is one, the fact that the case and the earphones themselves are really big and bulky. So it's a big problem with storage, especially if you only want to put your earphones in the pocket. And another concern that I have with these is that the case itself, while has that nice soft touch plastic finish and on its own feels pretty good, it's kind of light even with the earphones inside. So it feels like the build quality isn't phenomenal in these earphones. Oh yeah, and the case charges via USB-C and has 4 battery indicators on the front, as well as magnets everywhere for closing the case, for attaching the earphones in the case. Now, since we're talking all about, USB-C charging, all that stuff, let's talk about the battery life of these earphones. Now, the battery life of these earphones are pretty good. I found that the earphones themselves could last me a good 4 to 5 hours on one charge with the case. And the case itself could last me 2 to 4 charges, full charges, and so I could use it across the whole week without really worrying about battery life, and I really only had to charge it at the end of the week. So I personally think that the battery life is definitely respectable and sufficient for my needs. However, if you're someone who is likely to not be able to reach a power source, say you're on holiday or something and you don't really have a chance to charge, or you are someone who forgets to charge all the time, then maybe once a week you're gonna have to live without music in your ears for a while, which is probably one of the worst pains you can have when you're traveling on the train or the bus. So yeah, battery life is good, but you're gonna have to remember to charge, as with all things. It's not like never ending. That's the battery life. And in terms of comfort, these earphones are pretty decent. As I said before, they're a bit big and they're a bit bulky, so when you put them in your ear, they kind of stick out a little bit, which might be annoying and a hassle for some people because you might bump into stuff. But for me, it's not too much of a concern, and with the right size ear tips, I found myself able to wear these earphones for a few hours on end, no problem at all. So that's all G for my side, so that's good. Now we've got that all out of the way, let's talk about the sound quality of these earphones. Now let's start off with the pros. The clarity and the detail of these earphones are really not that bad. I think the clarity actually is really one of the better earphones in its price range that I've tried. I haven't tried the new Jabra earphones and the new JBLs, but I've tried the older ones, and it's definitely comparable to the Jabra and JBL competitors at its price range of about 90 to 100 Singapore dollars, and that is definitely good. It's a good amount of clarity, a good amount of detail. You can definitely hear what's going on in the song. It's a pretty warm sounding earphone, and it has pretty rich bass with thick lower mids. It's still reasonably balanced overall, but I personally think that it does lean a little bit to the warm side, so the lower frequencies. So if you're listening to hip hop, listening to things with drum, bass, a lot of that, you're gonna have a good time with these, more so than if you were listening to higher mids, female vocals, jazz, a lot of snares. I don't know what kind of music really cares about upper frequencies, but those are some examples. The soundstage of these earphones are not amazing, but then again, it is a small pair of closed wireless earphones, so there's nothing really too much to complain about here. And the stereo separation, the stereo imaging of these earphones are pretty decent as well, so it's kind of alright. Now, in terms of cons of this sound though, I think the main one is the fact that these earphones do not get soft enough. For me, I have pretty sensitive hearing still. I do take care of my ears quite a bit. Sometimes I do turn up the volume for fun, but I still find that my hearing is pretty good. I take care of my ears a lot. So the volume I actually like to listen to at is usually quite low. And in quiet places like a library or at home, I want my earphones to be able to go low enough so that it's a comfortable listening volume. But one thing I found with these ear pumps is that even at the lowest listening volume, the volume was way too high. Oh, and by the way, if you think this was that fatal flaw, it is. The fatal flaw is coming up, and it's a seriously fatal one. Now, these earphones sound great, and in noisy environments, that higher volume, that loud volume that it can reach is very useful, very nice for still being able to listen to music even in a very noisy environment. But when you reach a quiet spot and want to listen to music and chill out, I find that it's too loud and it gets very jarring and uncomfortable for me. So if you're someone who's on the younger side of things, you're like under 20 years old, you probably have more sensitive hearing. So as a result, that excessive volume on the lowest setting might be very uncomfortable for you. But then again, some people are completely deaf at my age, so I don't really know anymore. Okay, so now that we got it out of the way, let's talk about the fatal flaw. Now, the one thing that I haven't talked about with these earphones, these true wireless earphones, is its Bluetooth connectivity. Sorry, my cat's acting up again. Okay, now, but whatever, he's cute, he gets a free pass. So let's talk about the fatal flaw of the TWS7 HyperBASS. Now, up to this point, the one thing that you might have noticed I haven't talked about is the wireless capabilities of these earphones. How does it perform as a true wireless earphone with Bluetooth connectivity? In terms of connection, it's pretty easy to connect these earphones to your phone. Honestly, it isn't hard at all. It's pretty standard, just like any other true wireless earphone. The only problem with it is the stability of the connection is far from optimal, far from desirable, and far from good in any way, shape, or form. You see, the TWS7 HyperBASS, they connect very quickly and very snappily, but the moment you connect, it seems to just incessantly cut out. Now, this could be an issue with my particular unit, but having tried multiple TWS earphones from Earpump, many of them have the same issue with cutting out. So I think it's got to do with the Bluetooth receiver chip that they use in their earphones, because there clearly is a problem there. And there lies the fatal flaw. It literally cannot hold a connection to save its life. Even in a place with a minimal electromagnetic pollution from other phones and other devices, like in my own damn room, I find it struggles to hold a clean connection without cutting out in terms of sound, cutting out in terms of volume every once in a while, indicating that there's something wrong with the connection. And that just makes it a useless earphone in my eyes. If it can't hold a consistent playback, it's worse than a true $2 wired earphone that I get from, Singapore Airlines that I can plug into my phone. And that's a major problem with these earphones. They can't hold a connection because at the end of the day, they are true wireless earphones. And even though they sound pretty darn good for the price, with its dual drivers, with its interesting features and pretty good battery life, and also really nice comfort for my ears, even though it has so many things going for it, because of this one fatal flaw, the fact that it simply cannot hold a connection, which is essential because it is a true wireless earphone, there's no wired option here, I cannot recommend it to anyone. So as a result, yes, Earpump did send me this earphone to keep and review if I wanted to, but I think at this point they probably do regret sending me this stuff, because this is not a earphone anyone should buy. For $100, there are way better options. Go look at the JBL, go look at the Jabra, you can look into the Genesis ones that I reviewed recently, or you can even look into the Black Dot Pro 2s, which I use every day, which honestly, for $60 are pretty decent value. There are many options in the true wireless earphone market, and you shouldn't even consider an option that can't hold a proper signal when it is a Bluetooth earphone. Come on, get this thing right. Maybe they have fixed it in newer models, newer iterations, but I've had comments on my previous videos on TWS earphones where they went like, oh, does this have that connection issue? Which tells me that this problem is more commonplace than just one unit, because I've had people message me about this connection issue before. Now, of course, at the end of the day, you have to take every review with a grain of salt, but I can wholeheartedly say that this was my honest opinion of these earphones. They didn't pay me to say anything good, even though they sent me these earphones to keep, and they also couldn't pay me if I wanted to say anything bad, as I've clearly have done. Not recommending these earphones at all. But it's still up to you at the end of the day. If you've had personal experience with this brand and you trust it, then okay, maybe it's a good idea to get it. But for my personal experience as a reviewer, having tested so many different wireless earphones in similar price ranges, I can wholeheartedly not recommend these earphones. Get something else. Okay, I'm gonna end this video off here. This cat has been making so much noise. I need to take him downstairs. Say goodbye, Moomin. Bye-bye. See you guys next time. The next video is probably going to come next week. I think we're going to start doing daily uploads. I want to focus on quality over quantity. After seeing a comment about how my scripting has gotten worse, I totally agree. I'm going to end this video off here though. The last bit got a bit kind of complicated and a bit repetitive because my cat started being a really annoying, noisy little bugger. But that's fine. I'm going to end the video off here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, which might be next week, which might be never.